Hey, what's up y'all? I'm back with another video. With the release of The War Within comes several new major factions, including the Council of Dorne, the Assembly of the Deeps, the Severed Threads, and the Hollowfall Arathi, each with their own specific currencies, mechanics, and weekly rewards that you can do for things such as gold, crests, valorstones, and items. One of the factions, the Assembly of the Deeps, has a unique mechanic where you can collect odd globs of wax around Khazal-Gar and turn them in for various rewards ranging from battle pets, materials, and even a toy. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can farm the odd globs of wax, as well as how to maximize the amount of gold you can make while farming. Anyways, that being said, let's just get right into it. First and foremost, you're going to want to get to the point in the quest line where you unlock the Snuffling trait with the Assembly of the Deeps. To do this, you'll have to reach Renown rank 2 with any character, which can be easily accomplished if you play for more than 30 minutes into the expansion. Once you unlock Snuffling, you'll be able to see purple rocks around each of the zones around Khazal-Gar, and clicking them will cause a random interaction, such as fighting a pack of mobs, completing an aerial challenge, playing catch, or simply clicking on an item on the ground. Once you acquire 50 odd globs of wax, you'll be able to turn them into middles, who you can find in Gundargaz, for a Firelight Ruby, which you can then in turn turn into nobles in exchange for the aforementioned battle pets, materials, and toy. For the sake of gold farming, the only item worth purchasing from nobles is the Waxy Box of Rocks, which contains level 1 mining materials, as well as has a chance to contain null stones. If you're unfamiliar, null stones are a trade good used in just about everything, which currently averages around 4,000 gold across US realms, making for quite the payday if you're lucky enough to acquire a few of them. Now, while you can easily acquire these through mining, I found that I can obtain 1 to 2 null stones every 3 or so boxes, on top of all the other materials that I'll collect on the side. If you're looking for a specific gold per box rate, I'd say that the average box contains around 2,000 to 3,000 gold worth of mining materials, not including any null stone drops, which is pretty solid if you ask me, considering if you're dual gathering, you can make much more. That all aside, I figured that I would spend around an hour farming each of the zones, dual gathering and collecting every wax node that I see, and let you know the rates that I saw while farming. The first zone that I decided to farm wax in was the Ringing Deeps, seeing as it's the zone in which the main wax vendor is located. Since the zone is quite dark, the purple nodes were quite easy to spot, and saying that there were quite a few of them would be an understatement. I was able to farm out 150 odd globs of wax on the nose in an hour while farming while also dual gathering, making a total of around 70 to 80,000 gold in the hour that I was farming. I was also lucky enough to get 2 null stones from the boxes that I opened while farming, which contributed to a pretty decent amount of my earnings. Since the zone is quite easy to traverse, and there are a pretty decent amount of nodes around as well, I would definitely recommend trying to farm out this zone for wax and gold, since there are plenty of herbs around and plenty of wax as well. The next zone that I farmed wax around was the Aisle of Dorne. Now, my expectations for the zone were pretty high, seeing as the mobs in the zone are actually pretty sparse with the exception of the Bee Hell in the northeastern corner of the zone. And to say that I was disappointed would be quite the understatement. After an hour of farming, I was only able to scrounge together 62 odd globs of wax, which is barely 1 turn-in. Not to mention, from the 1 box that I was able to acquire, I didn't even get a null stone. So if you see me in tomorrow's paper, you'll know why. From an hour of dual gathering and wax collection, I was still able to make around 45,000 gold, while nowhere near as good as I could have done by simply skipping all of the wax nodes and tryharding while dual gathering, is still a respectable amount, seeing as all gold is good gold. Would I consider the zone as a whole to be a waste of time? Probably. In my opinion, there just isn't enough bismuth or disturbed earth nodes to make the zone worth farming in any capacity, and it's a shame since I had such high hopes. But it is what it is. Beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. The next zone that I decided to farm wax in was Hollowfall, and after an incredibly disappointing hour in the Aisle of Dorne, my expectations going in were quite low. Personally, I was anticipating the Ringing Deeps to be the goated wax farming zone, seeing as it's quite literally the zone that the odd globs of wax mechanic originates in, but I was still trying to be slightly optimistic. After an hour of dual gathering and wax collecting, I was able to acquire 137 odd globs of wax, which, while disappointing that I wasn't able to collect enough for 3 boxes worth, was still pretty decent. In total, I managed to farm a total of around 110,000 gold worth of materials, including a null stone from one of the boxes that I acquired from my wax turn-ins. Like I said in my mining and herbalism guide, however, most of the gold that I acquire from farming in this zone comes from the sheer amount of bismuth that you can find in Hollowfall, as well as some lucky imperfect nullstone drops. I plan on making a video on how to get more out of your mining soon, so if you want to stay up to date on the likes of that, I'd recommend hitting the subscribe button, since I'm awesome and I deserve it. While the wax per hour rate in Hollowfall may not be as great as the Ringing Deep, if you're just looking to make gold pound for pound, I would recommend this zone, as it seems to be the goated zone for gathering professions, as well as having a pretty decent amount of wax to go along with it. The final zone that I decided to farm wax in is appropriately the only other zone in the War Within, being Asha Head. And I was not expecting much from the zone, seeing as the quote-unquote max level zones in previous expansions are typically underwhelming as far as farming goes, besides the glowing Titan orbs from early Dragonflight and Savage Bloods in Nagrand for the knowing knowers out there. Flying around the zone for an hour yielded me 141 odd globs of wax, which is comparable to the likes of Hollowfall. In fact, the rate in which I was able to collect wax felt about exactly the same as Hollowfall, the only main difference being instead of gathering over 100,000 gold worth of mats, I was only able to gather around 50,000 gold worth of materials, seeing as nodes are not only more sparse throughout the zone, but the amount of bismuth compared to the amount of acarite throughout the zone can be compared to the amount of ironclad to bismuth that you see on the Isle of Dorne, which is quite sad, seeing as after a pretty successful stint in Hollowfall, my expectations for gold making had gone up. While the amount of wax that you can earn per hour in the zone is quite good, I still personally wouldn't recommend it, seeing as the rate is just about as good as the one in Hollowfall, just without the added bonus of being able to make 100,000 gold from dual gathering in the zone. I was also pretty unlucky while unboxing, not receiving a single null stone from the 2 boxes that I was able to open, hurting the amount of gold per hour even more, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. Farming wax is definitely something you should try out, especially since the price of raw materials will start to crash soon as the markets begin to be flooded again with the release of more and more endgame content, and seeing how null stones will more than likely hold onto their value for slightly longer. If you liked the video, cool. Leave a comment telling me how awesome I am. If you didn't, it's also cool. I've been really nonchalant recently, so it's whatever. Like I've been saying in every single one of my videos to stretch the length for the algorithm, my official Discord server is now open, and if you'd like to join, there's a quick PowerPoint presentation in the description with the join link at the end, so feel free to hop in if you'd like. Anyways, that all being said, as always, peace.